Thank you so much to today's amazing Patreon sponsors, Oi Monkfish, RS Farmer Bob, and Dr. Dread. So before we get started, I just want to give a huge thank you to 30,000 subscribers. That's really amazing. It's pretty unbelievable to me. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate it. And to celebrate this Friday, October 9th at 4 p.m. EST 2020, I'll be hosting a little Castle Wars event on World 334 in the AndrewAJT 62 clan chat, and everyone is welcome to join and also bring as many friends as they would like. So as many of you guys know who have been following the channel for a while, I have been calling for minigame improvements for quite some time, starting with my video, my top 10 dead minigames in old school. That was over a year ago. I've also talked a little bit about it recently, and today we actually have a very exciting dev blog that I can't wait to talk about, Soul Wars and Minigames, and this talks a lot about the Soul Wars proposal and some more details on it, but also my favorite is it makes some proposals to change older minigames. I've always really enjoyed minigames. I grew up playing the ones in Mario Party 2 and also Super Mario 64 DS. As always, the blog will be linked down below. I recommend you read it because I'm only paraphrasing and I can't get to every detail in this video. Also, all of this is subject to change. I'm only reacting to the first version of the blog posted, but they are going to update it. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on Soul Wars because I have talked about it already. My opinion on it is it looks cool, but then again, do we really need Soul Wars? Wouldn't it be much better to have Fist of Guthix or Stealing Creation? However, I did want to mention a few changes they made to Soul Wars in this proposal from pre-EOC. One change from pre-EOC which I don't like is the games will only be 10 minutes now instead of 20 in pre-EOC, which I think is a little too short. Honestly, I didn't mind it when it was 20 minutes. It feels like you need 10 minutes to really get into the game, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I don't want it to be over like right away. They are going to listen to feedback and revise the blog and add poll questions to it as well. One really good change that I like is they added some basic entry requirements to combat bots, which is a really good idea because I don't want to see level 3 bots botting this minigame and just kind of flooding it with players who are not even real. They removed some of the Slayer requirements, which I don't really love. I kind of liked how it was a Slayer-based minigame in the past, but it really wasn't the most important part of it, so I'm okay with that change, but it's not really that great to me either. I was a little disappointed that there's really no mention of Nomad's Requiem, which was the quest around Soul Wars back then. Now, the quest wasn't required to play the minigame at the time, however, it was the way you could get the Nomad Cape or the Soul Wars Cape or whatever you want to call it. And it was a good reward from the quest, and now it'll be a reward for the minigame itself, which is kind of an underwhelming change. I would rather see the effort put in to add the quest as well, even though it would take some dev time for sure. I actually feel exactly the same way about it as I did when they released the Corporal Beast in Old School, where they didn't actually include the 2 quests which were associated with it. They just added the corp in a random cave in the wilderness, which kind of felt out of place to me. It was nice having those quests in pre-EOC to kind of establish some backstory and atmosphere for it. It's a little different though because Soul Wars was released before Nomad's Requiem, whereas the corp quests were actually required to fight the corp, so maybe they could still add the quest in the future, Nomad's Requiem, but it's not going to be the same if we already have the cape. Two good things is they reduced the prayer bonus of the cape from plus 12 to plus 8, which is more appropriate for a minigame reward. Maybe they could have the quest in the future, which would give you the ability to increase the prayer back to plus 12. Also, an advantage of them doing it this way is the minigame will have decent rewards if you consider the cape, and if the cape wasn't a reward from the minigame and you had to do the quest for it, then the minigame itself would probably need some more rewards, so this would become like a huge development project to add the quest and the rewards, and it would just be a massive undertaking. So I'm okay with them doing it this way, and actually reading the blog, even though I would still prefer Fist of Guthix or Stealing Creation, now that I've seen what they've outlined here, I am actually fairly excited to play it. Overall, it does look like they're doing a pretty good job with this. So there are a plethora of proposed changes to existing minigames, and let's start with Last Man Standing. They want to add a new map to it, and this map looks amazing. It looks really awesome, so I'm actually really looking forward to playing on this map. I don't see anything wrong with this whatsoever. so I definitely approve of this. They also want to add pure and Zerk modes to it, which honestly doesn't really seem necessary in my opinion. So I've always wanted changes to the Berthorpe Games Room, and one problem I think is a lot of people nowadays probably don't even know it exists because it no longer has a teleport option on the games necklace. It now teleports you to the Berthorpe outside area rather than the games room itself, which is okay, but now it's kind of sad that the games room is basically abandoned. So they have an interesting approach here. Rather than bringing people to the games room, they want to bring the games room to the people. They want to add a games zone to the GE where you could play the 4 games and also add them to various pubs around the game, which would be pretty cool. I actually really like that idea. I do still want to see some changes to the games room itself though, and it would be very cool if they added chess to it as well. Trouble Brewing can also be getting some updates soon. They want to remove some of the requirements like cooking and also the quest requirement. They want to add a bank and also make it only playable on World 304. These are all really great changes actually. The only thing is I don't think it's really going far enough. I'm not sure a lot of people are going to play it even after these changes are made. But this is definitely a really good start, and perhaps maybe there could be some more improvements after this. So they want to make certain worlds for the Ferox Enclave for the minigames where you can't leave the Enclave and you'll be able to play the minigames, which seems fine. They're also proposing some changes to BA. Personally, I just really consider these to be modernizations. Nothing really too significant, but because it's an older minigame, I do think these changes would be pretty good. Like the fake XP drops I think is a really good addition. So the next one is pretty exciting, Castle Wars changes. Now to be honest, I'm always a little wary of Castle Wars changes because the minigame is already so good as it is, and you don't want to go fixing what's not broken. But there's only 3 changes here proposed, and I actually like all 3 of them. They want to add a new potion which would have the effects of a Super Combat Potion, Ranging Potion, and Imbued Heart. The only thing I would say with that is, why do we need the Imbued Heart in there? Because the Imbued Heart is very different from the other 2. It's not a potion. It's an expensive item, and for most players it's harder to get than a Super Combat or Ranging Potion. And it also has a cooldown, so I would rather have the new potion have the Magic Potion bonus rather than the Imbued Heart, but it's not really a big deal. I would probably still vote yes to this potion. They also want to add recruiters to the Grand Exchange, which is very cool. Also new full helms and boots to go along with the armor sets, so these are 2 very good changes that would get more people to play Castle Wars in my opinion. So there's a few suggested changes for Piro Piro. One would be to allow you to store equipment with the NPC, which is a very good change because it just makes it more convenient to pick up and play, and also kind of an incentive to find crop circles. If you found one and entered it through there, you would get a little buff to make it easier to push through the wheat. I don't play this minigame very often, but perhaps I would more if these changes were made. The only thing I disagree with is reconsidering the strength XP gained by pushing through the maze, perhaps replacing it with agility XP. That seems really unnecessary. So by far the biggest set of changes proposed for an existing minigame is for Shades of Morton. So they want to rework the dungeon, and they actually gave us a choice whether or not we want 2004 styled or 2007 for the whole area. And I definitely prefer the 2004 style. I think it's much more fitting for this type of content. There's some new rewards ideas as well. For example, prayer robes, which is a concept designed by Maximus RS, and they actually give several potential ideas for the set effect or the purpose of the robes, and the one I like is to be able to overheal your prayer points when having the full set equipped. That's a mechanic that we really don't see very often in old school. I think just the ancient mace and maybe the monastery altar does that. Maybe 1 or 2 other things increases your prayer above the max, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. There's also a couple of variants of the split bark armor they proposed. One is swamp bark, and that would actually give you increased freeze timers for bind, snare, and entangle, which is certainly something I'm in favor of. I think those spells could use even more of a buff than they already did recently, with the freeze timer no longer being halved through Pre-Mage. The only thing I'm uncertain of is, do you have to wear all of the pieces to get any benefit at all? Because they say in addition to the stats, we'd like to offer a set effect which buffs binding spell, effects by 2 ticks per piece. So set effect sounds like you would need to wear all of them, but then they say 2 ticks per piece, so could you wear 1 piece and still get some benefit? I think it would be better if you could, like if you could wear the gloves and boots and still get a little bit of a bonus. And for the Bloodbark armor, which is the second one, you would get a 1.5% increase of healing for blood spells in the Ancient Mage spellbook, and a full set bonus of 32.5%. So it sounds like just wearing 1 piece would still give you a benefit with this one. I'm hoping it's the same for the Swampbark armor as well. These armors look very cool, especially I love the idea of buffing Bind, Snare, and Entangle. This isn't necessarily the best way this could have happened. I would rather there be a quest or something and a reward you can unlock, but if this is the way they're going to introduce it, I'll take it any way I can get it, so I do like these armors. I do think the Mage bonus should actually be increased though, it's very low. It does have decent melee defense, which is nice, but overall, unless the Mage bonus was increased a little bit, I don't see it being too viable for both armors, unless you could at least wear just a couple pieces of it. And sadly, there's no mention of the fight pits, the PvP one, in this blog. I wish they would make some small changes to it just to try to make it more popular. Even if it was just some small cosmetic rewards or something in the meantime, I think that would be really cool, so I hope they do something with it eventually. But overall, I'm very happy with this blog and very excited to potentially see some of these changes to the minigames. I think a lot of this stuff is going to have to pass a poll first, so we'll see how that goes, and Soul Wars definitely looks a little bit more interesting to me now. Like I said before, they're going to revise the blog, so I recommend you read it yourself. It'll be linked down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys at the Castle Wars event this Friday at 4 p.m. EST. In the clan chat on World 334. Those details will be in the description as well. You can like the video if you enjoyed and sub if you haven't already, and turn bell notifications to all to get notified every Tuesday when I upload. You can join my clan chat up on screen, my Discord down below. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram down below. And if you want to support the channel even further, you can check out my Patreon page in the end screen. Thank you all for watching. Thanks again for 30K, and I'll see you this Friday at the event, and next Tuesday for my next video.